Welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are looking at a game called Burning Road, an arcade type racer that was released back during midpoint of 1996 by a developer named Toka. This game actually was released in America and in Europe. I actually remember seeing this game quite a bit in the early days when I was playing the PlayStation. Used to see it a lot in magazines and so forth, but I never actually gotten the experience to actually play it at that point. I remember actually a load of times, I used to go to Dublin at different points a couple of times a year, and I'd usually save up whatever pocket money I had, and I'd want to buy plenty of games, or if I had enough money to buy any games, I'd usually always be able to buy maybe one or two, depending on if I could afford it or not. But most times when I went to the shops to buy the game, you'd always see this game here, like in one of the shelves, and then at later points then obviously it was discounted, so you'd always find it like on a discount shelf or whatever. And I was tempted to buy this game numerous times because I always liked the look of it, and I do like arcade style racers, but I just never got round to actually buying it. So I didn't, because again, I usually, whenever I was going shop, I always had my intention of buying a particular game, but if I did have any money left over, I usually try and find something else. But I found the more shops I went round, you'd always find something else that you liked, so that kind of took away from what you were going to get anyway. But anyway, as time went on, I actually forgot about this game, and it wasn't until then I actually picked it up then a couple of years later, but I actually bought it online. I bought it on eBay because I just took a notion. I went through a period where I actually wanted to start collecting games, so I actually did collect a ton of old PlayStation Classic games, because at the time they were going on eBay really cheap. Now again, this game, you can still get it on eBay, but depending on the quality or the condition of the game, you probably will pay a little bit more than normal. So it's just something to be aware of. And I had this game for a good while, and I remember actually when I did first play it, I was like, because I was expecting it to be similar, because I remember from looking at it, from what I had seen, and it did remind me of the likes of Daytona USA that was on the arcades and even the Sega Saturn. And it did, for me, had a little bit of kind of like a Ridge Racer kind of vibe to it as well. But when I played it, it was a very different game. It did remind me more of Daytona, I will admit, but it was a lot more difficult. It definitely had a lot more of a steeper learning curve. It actually took quite a while, I will admit, to get into it. But again, once I got into it, I actually really enjoyed it. It is very difficult, I will admit, to win a race in the game, because you can never really get too far ahead of your competitors. Even if you do win a race, you barely just scrape a win if you're lucky. It's very hard to win a race in this game. But it's still enjoyable anyway, once you master the controls and know how to drift around the corners and so forth, and as long as nothing goes wrong, you should be okay. But again, like a lot of racing games that were released around this time, in the early days of the 32-bit era, and even like the PlayStation in general, a lot of these arcade racers, be similar to like the Ridge Racer and other games like it. You had access to a number of tracks, but mainly you only had access to 3 tracks, and you had a selection of cars, and each car varied in terms of its handling mechanics. And each course pretty much varied in difficulty. Each course was pretty much tied to a different type of difficulty, like say whatever, medium, easy, medium and advanced. So depending on which track you played on, it would be more difficult to actually win the races as time went on. So this was no different to a lot of games back then. But like I mentioned, like regardless of the type of track that you raced on, it was still very difficult to actually win a race regardless. So I'm just picking the practice mode here just to kind of give you an overview of the tracks and so forth. So once you've selected your chosen difficulty or track, you then can access whatever cars you have choice of automatic, manual transmission. It's pretty cool, like you can use like kind of like a truck or a monster truck in it as well, so that adds to the experience as well. Now graphically, compared to other games, it's definitely wouldn't be up there with the likes of the more higher quality type games. But again, it's just a pure arcade racer at its heart, and for what it is, it actually looks pretty cool. It looks definitely more cartoony than anything else. It wouldn't be expecting it to be realistic at all. But I have to say, now, I actually did have quite a good bit of fun with this game, even though it is quite difficult. It does present a very good and quite a difficult challenge, but you do have good fun with it. And once you keep at it, the more you play it, it does get a wee bit easier. You will understand the mechanics a lot more, and it will definitely give you a better chance of actually getting closer to winning races and so forth. But it's just a fun game if you just want to play it for a quick fix. Like if you have a few minutes to spare or even a half an hour, you can quickly get through most of the races. But again, if you're playing the championship, you will have to progress through each race, and you have to actually qualify within the top 2 or 3 to actually progress onto the next stage of the championship. But because you're timed as well, so if you don't actually finish the race within the time limit, or if you don't finish within the top 3, then obviously then your shot at the championship then is pretty much over. Then you have to start from scratch again. But again, if you want to just have a bit of fun with just a single race, just jump into the practice mode and actually just have a go just at the tracks and just choose them at your leisure. Because doing that there, you pretty much have access to the tracks straight away without having to unlock anything. So everything's easily accessible from within the game menus itself. As you can see here now, like you're drifting around the track. The tracks are very wide, and it does take a bit of getting used to, but again, it is actually quite fun when you get the hang of it. Like, you just to make sure you try not to go off, because I've noticed with this game, you do have a tendency, if you do slide off too much, you'll go straight into a wall, or you'll get stuck against the wall, and it does really slow you down, and that's where all the other cars will literally pass out. So it does hamper your race times and your lap times and so forth. But again, this is just a quick and fun general arcade racer that is worthwhile having a look into if these are the type of games you want to play. I do actually really enjoy these type of games, because again, I love car games, but I do actually love arcade racers as well, because again, they're just fun, they're easily accessible, you can get into them fairly quickly, even though they are quite difficult, but you can actually enjoy them, and they are quite fun. And they're great for, like, say, a quick fix if you have a little bit of time to spare, if you have a few minutes, or you just want to pass a bit of time. They're definitely a good way to just jump in and just have a bit of fun, pretty much. So as you can see here, this is just one of the other tracks. I think this is actually the medium difficulty track. And again, this will be a wee bit different from the other one because the layout is different. The track isn't as wide as the previous track, but there's a lot more turns and twists and more obstacles to dodge and so forth. So again, it just adds to the difficulty. So you can gradually see with each track that you're on, as you play through the game, it does gradually increase. So again, it goes into like different weather conditions all in one track, so it is a bit hectic. Like going back to even mention, like the graphics, right, wouldn't be similar to like some more popular games, but again, for an arcade racer, if you just want something that's quick and fun, the graphics actually do suit the game. These type of graphics do suit these type of arcade racers, and they were actually really popular back in the day. Because I always knew, like, when looking back, when I actually seen this game, I always did want to actually play it, and I always said to myself that I actually would actually love to try and experience it at some point. Again, now I know there is better racers out there. There is actually a lot more. But again, these games are still worth experiencing because they do have their own merits and their own wee quirks and they are enjoyable in their own right. As long as you're willing to just sit down and actually play and give them a good go, you actually will get some enjoyment out of them. But I always said to myself, I remember on the days with all the missed opportunities when I didn't buy the game outright years ago, when I actually had the PlayStation when I first played it, I always said to myself that I would play it at some point in the future. So at least I know myself, especially with the likes of the internet now, where you have access to a lot of stuff, it does give us the opportunity to be able to try out these things. So it was no doubt that I was actually going to be able to play these type of games, and especially experience these games that I've never gotten to play or haven't played in a long time. So now is the perfect opportunity to do so, as I always say in all my videos. There is no excuse, especially if you're into the PlayStation 1 like I am, because it is my favourite console, and it is one that I always want to play and always talk about, because it is, for me, one of the best consoles around, and it really set the standard for a lot of games and the way things are today in the games industry. So it is always good to experience these old type of games and see how far everything has changed over the years. And a lot of these games, even like this here, they're still just as playable today as they've ever been, and you still have as much fun with them today as ever as well. That's why I enjoy the PlayStation 1 so much, because you can still, these games are still very easy to pick up and play. I'll admit I didn't do as well in that race there, but that just shows you the level of difficulty in this game as well. It is quite tough, but again, like I said, it's still fun and it's still worth experiencing and enjoying. So now we're quickly just going to go on to the last track in the game, the expert track. Now this one doesn't have as many laps, but it is longer and it's definitely a lot more difficult. I'll be honest, I always struggled with this track. It's very, very hard. I don't think I ever actually won a race in this track, because again, the game is quite difficult, even though it is very short, because it does offer one hell of a challenge, let's just put it that way. It really does. As you can see there, when you get stuck against the wall, it can actually slow you down, so that can hamper your progress as well in each of the races. Yeah, this track's definitely a lot more difficult than the other tracks in the game for sure. I find the more you try to push the car and the faster you try to go, the more mistakes you actually will make on this track. Still, it's a fun little game and it's very enjoyable. Like I said, if you want a quick run or quick playthrough, it's definitely a bit of fun for just to pass by a few minutes or half an hour if you have a little bit of time to spare. And again, it's still a game on the PlayStation that's worth experiencing anyway. As I do say with all my videos, there's a lot of games out there that probably a lot of people never got the chance to play or have played and would like to play them again. Now is the perfect opportunity to actually go out and experience these games all over again, because that's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm creating these videos as well, because it is definitely, for me, my favourite console, and I will always be wanting to go and explore all these type of games. And I'm realising now that there's loads of games out there that you can get access to that never were available, say, in my region in Europe or even in America. And now is the perfect opportunity to literally go out and play those games and really just enjoy them and see what they're all about, for sure. I'm not going to make this final lap, cutting it fine. Yeah, that's it. That's as far as I'm going to get with this. Yeah, it's very difficult, but it's an enjoyable game all the same, and I highly recommend that you actually give it a go and try it out. So what are your thoughts? Have you actually experienced this, or have you never seen this before? If so, I would highly recommend that you at least give it a go and see what you think yourself. So that's it now for this video of Burning Road. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Also hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be updated whenever I release future videos. And as always, make sure to keep playing these classic games or exploring these type of games, see what you think of them, and hope that you enjoy them. And make sure to keep those gaming memories alive.